Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving into the world, the artistic mind of Bob Camblin.
Yeah, he's a fascinating figure.
Definitely. And you've pulled together some great sources for us. A book of his quotes, which are, wow, quite something.
Thought-provoking for sure.
A biography, reviews of books about his art, even a YouTube discussion on one specific piece, plus some background info.
Right, a good mix.
So our mission today really is to unpack all of this, try and get a handle on Camblin's unique way of looking at art and maybe life too. See why his work's so sought after now.
It's a great collection to work with. You really see the interplay between his life story, the facts,
Yeah.
and then the more, well, philosophical ideas in his art.
Oh, okay. So let's start with the basics. Bob Camblin, born in Oklahoma, 1928, studied at the Kansas City Art Institute.
Yeah.
Got a solid foundation there, I guess.
Yeah, seems so. And then the Fulbright to Italy, that must have been huge for him.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine being immersed in all that history. And then he taught for a while at different universities.
Right, shared his knowledge.
But then, 1976, big change. He steps away from teaching, embraces this sort of nomadic life, just dedicated to making art.
That 76 decision feels really key, doesn't it? Leaving the structure of academia
Totally.
for the unknown.
Yeah.
Must have shaped his art, maybe pushed him towards those themes of, like, impermanence or that perfectly average idea he talked about.
And the range of his work. Oils, acrylics, watercolors, drawings, prints, even painted paper.
He really didn't box himself in, constantly exploring, trying new things.
And apparently when his stuff does surface, it gets snapped up fast for high prices.
Yeah, that scarcity, the demand, it definitely adds to the mystique around him.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk about that philosophy you mentioned. This quote about sticking with common sense, trying for the perfectly average view of the universe. And here's the kicker. He thought this way he could enjoy miracles on both sides, science and magic, hoping for a, quote, bright gray when they meet.
It's such an interesting way to put it, isn't it? Bright gray.
It really is. It suggests he wasn't dogmatic at all, very open-minded.
Exactly. No rigid categories. Just this acceptance of ambiguity, maybe. A curiosity about opposites. That bright gray feels like harmony, not conflict.
Okay, so let's get into a specific piece. Glorm. It pops up in a few of the sources.
Right.
Described as very dreamlike, surreal. There's a figure in white cloth sort of lying down, merging with roots, vines, plants.
Yeah, very organic.
The colors are earthy greens, blues, but with warmer oranges too, like an otherworldly forest or maybe underwater.
Could be.
And then, bam, coming in from the top left, this fiery comet-like thing adds a real jolt of energy.
And the interpretations are fascinating. The sources link that merging figure, the one tangled in plants, to the Zen concept of new self.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that we're not separate, fixed individuals, but interconnected with everything.
Ah, okay, so the boundaries dissolving between the person and nature, like surrendering to the flow of life and death.
Precisely. It fits the visual perfectly.
And the comet, what's the thinking there?
Well, it's seen as representing like a sudden flash of enlightenment, an awakening.
A burst of clarity hitting that calm scene.
Exactly. That jolt, that disruption that leads to deeper understanding. The YouTube transcript called it an insight that could ignite the spirit.
Wow. So enlightenment isn't always gradual, it can be sudden?
That seems to be the idea here, yeah.
And there's another layer, a connection to the I Ching. Hexagram 24, return.
Yes, return fu, which is all about cycles, renewal, coming back to the start before a new phase.
So the figure is maybe resting, introspective.
Before a new cycle begins, right. And the comet is the catalyst, the thing that triggers the change, the growth.
Okay, so it ties into that cyclical view of life, like in Zen and the I Ching. The whole environment supports that idea of constant change.
Yeah, Glorm ends up being this incredibly rich piece, packed with these big themes for you to mull over.
Definitely. Okay, switching gears slightly, another book mentioned is The Art of Everything. And one review described Camblin's art in it as questions disguised as images and philosophy as just incomplete answers. That really makes you think about what he was doing with his art.
It totally reframes it, doesn't it? Not statements, but prompts. Catalysts for you, the viewer, to start asking questions.
Yeah, he's not giving answers. He's starting a conversation almost.
Exactly. The review even called his drawings paradoxes made visible. I love that phrase.
Me too. Like a trap that doesn't trap, a structure that doesn't move, a disappearing object never meant to be lost.
Just brilliant descriptions. They really capture that elusive quality.
And there are examples like a figure 4 trap symbolizing entanglement, or a tattooed arm standing for unspoken family history, things etched deep.
Right, and even a still frog embodying Zen wisdom just by being still.
It's amazing how these simple images can hold so much weight. The trap becomes a metaphor for, things that hold us back without us
Like a
realizing.
tattoo speaks to how the past stays with us. The frog, that stillness, that presence in the moment, that's very Zen.
The review also mentioned themes like illusion vanishing acts, sleight of hand, making us question what's real,
Yeah, questioning perception.
and traps, again, not just physical ones, but fear, time, the ones we make for ourselves, and stillness, which could be strength or being stuck.
Ambiguity again.
Exactly. It keeps coming back to. The art gives you questions, not easy answers.
Which respects the viewer.
Right,
It invites you to actually engage, not just consume. It makes art appreciation active.
definitely. Okay, what about influences? How did his style develop? The foreword to Zen and the Art of Enlightenment talks about art movements
Right. Realism, impressionism, expressionism, abstract art.
and connects them to Zen that focus on direct experience and the I Ching cycles.
Yeah, it sort of places Camblin in that flow. His mix of abstraction with symbols, it's like bridging ancient wisdom and modern art.
Suggesting art can be more than just pretty, a way to heighten awareness.
Exactly. A portal to deeper understanding, maybe prompting self-inquiry.
And his own path. The biography mentions starting with abstract impressionism and then pioneering this style called mouches volantes, optical illusions with dots and dashes.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Flying flies, literally. Playing with perception.
And some early work had social protest themes too.
So you see this evolution, right? From abstract expressionism's emotion to the perceptual games of mouches volantes to social commentary. He was always exploring.
That mouches volantes thing seems key though. Directly messing with how we see things relates back to questioning reality, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a thread running through his work, how subjective our experience is.
It's also really interesting hearing about his collaborations, these events with Earl Staley and Joe Tate.
Right. BD Productions, the holding firm, in Houston back in the 60s and 70s.
The tattoo show, Joe Tate's backyard, the camping show, sounds like they were really pushing boundaries.
Totally challenging what art is and who the artist is. It wasn't just about the finished object you hang on a wall.
More about the process, the interaction.
Yeah, more communal, experimental, maybe more democratic even. Less precious about the art object.
And that fits with him sometimes signing his own work anonymous or anonymous artists.
That's a huge statement, isn't it? Downplaying the ego.
Especially in the art world, which often focuses so much on the individual genius.
Right. It suggests he wanted to connect with something more universal, maybe, beyond just his own name.
So another idea that keeps cropping up, hidden meanings, secrets, puzzles in his work.
Yes, that definitely comes through.
Like his writings might be clues, or maybe disguises. And this extra data problem in his drawings, a code next to a meaningless trap.
It's like he's playing with the viewer, but in an engaging way, inviting you to decipher, to participate.
Not just look, but see.
Exactly. The extra data problem is interesting too. Like he knew people might overthink it, trying to find meaning where maybe there wasn't any intended. That balance between meaning and just form.
It makes you think about how much effort we put into understanding art, or if we just skim the surface. Maybe he wanted us to dig deeper and maybe find something about ourselves in the process.
I think that's a big part of it. Cultivating that deeper connection, making you think critically, reflect personally, be okay with not having all the answers.
Which brings us to that review of Zen and the Art of Enlightenment. It frames the book as a guide to finding enlightenment through art and language, not through dogma.
Right, not a rule book.
And Camblin's illustrations are described as strange, funny, unsettling, like koans, designed to disrupt our usual way of thinking.
I love that idea of everyday enlightenment. Finding insight, beauty, even humor in ordinary life, in decay, accepting impermanence. It feels very accessible.
Yeah, not some lofty, unattainable thing.
It's like the art is meant to shake us up a bit.
Jolt us out of our comfortable viewpoints, make us ask questions without needing instant answers.
Encouraging that slower, more deliberate look. Resisting the urge to just label it and move on.
It's about being more mindful, maybe not just with art, but with everything.
I think so. Letting meaning unfold rather than demanding it up front.
And all the while, Camblin himself remains, well, enigmatic, iconoclastic. His work is scattered, hard to see.
Which adds to the mystique, of course.
And that whole nomadic period, funding his travels by selling art.
Yeah, that scarcity, the unconventional life.
Yeah.
It reinforces that image of someone fiercely independent, prioritizing the art above everything else.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on Bob Camblin, wow, lots to think about. Key themes like interconnectedness, cycles in life and art,
The power of questions over answers, the beauty in paradox.
collaboration versus the lone artist myth, and finding that everyday enlightenment through art.
It's a really rich mix of ideas. He wasn't just making things, he was creating these spaces for people to think, to
Mhm.
discover things about themselves.
Absolutely. Which leads to maybe a final thought. Camblin's whole approach, his life, his art, it seems to suggest that real understanding doesn't come from having all the answers or always striving for certainty. Maybe it comes from embracing ambiguity, questioning how we see things, and maybe finding something valuable in that perfectly average view, right in the middle of all the weird, amazing stuff life throws at us.
That's a great way to put it.
How might thinking like that change how we approach, well, not just art, but the complexities of our own lives every day?
It's a really powerful question. Moving beyond needing certainty, finding value in the questioning itself.
So, if you're listening and this sparked something, we definitely encourage you to look up Bob Camblin's work online or maybe find it in a museum if you can.
Yeah, definitely worth seeking out.
Think about Glorm or that idea of art as questions and maybe ask yourself, where are the traps in my own thinking? Could embracing paradox, like Camblin seemed to, offer a different way forward?
Food for thought.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.